Michael Wade Moss here on this Tuesday, January 19th, 2019. It's about 5:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here. And got a Mosscast here for you. I've used that hashtag before to describe the casts I've done before when I've talked about the weather. So I might as well just call this the Mosscast for Tuesday, January 15th, 2019. And mostly I do Mosscast for, as I've said before, where I do most of my forecasting is for the Indianapolis metro area. We're going to be looking mainly at the Indianapolis metro area. I also had a request for the Cincinnati area as well. And there's not much difference here going into the next this system coming into the weekend, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But there is a little bit of model difference on where some of the heavier snow is going to be. First things first, let's fly on across here. Take a look at things taken last hour. These are the temperatures around the area. And we've got temperatures mainly in the upper 20s to low 30s, maybe some mid 30s. Whoops. Not really too far off from the average highs and lows, which is about 33 and 17. Respectively. Get some colder air up there. Once you get up there near the international border, temperatures already in the single digits up in northwest Minnesota. Blah. Now here's the mid-level pattern. This is at the jet stream level, and see that up there. That's the mother lode of some cold air, which unfortunately we're going to have to deal with here over the next week or so. Particularly after this system comes through during the weekend. Not much around here. This massive cloudiness out here in California underneath this big ridge that you see up here, that's part of the energy that's going to be figuring in to the weekend system. Looks like mainly Saturday for us, and also over Texas there. You also see that area of clouds there. It's also the subtropical jet stream, which is also going to kind of be figuring into this as well. If you look carefully there in Iowa and Missouri, you see a little kink right there. That's a really weak upper level disturbance that's coming through the area right now. And I wanted to kind of show this. This is the radar loop, and I wanted to kind of show this as I zoom into it here. If you look real carefully there around Indianapolis, you'll occasionally see these little blips that pop up, or you'll see these little streaks there on the radar. You see them right there around Chicago as well. This is the low cloud base of that. The cloud base is low that the radar's picking up, but underneath these clouds, there is some very light precipitation, basically drizzle, that's coming out of these clouds. And while it doesn't seem like much, if you take a look at, let me flip over here. This is the soundings. This is where when we look up from the ground into the upper atmosphere. And I want to pay mind right here. This blue dashed line right here that's connected to that 0 right there. That's temperatures of 32 degrees. You go to the right of that particular line, the temperatures are above freezing. If you go to the left, they're below. And the green thing there is the dew point temperatures. And when you have a big space between the dew temperatures and the actual temperatures, that's indicative of some very dry air. However, as you see here at the bottom, they're right close together once you get up about 4,000 or 5,000 feet off the ground. And that's indicative of a very saturated atmosphere, and hence we have the low clouds outside that we've had all day and we'll probably have into tomorrow. But if you look here, temperatures, that little yellow line there within the red line, that's the area where snow is generated in the atmosphere. It's what we also call the dendritic growth zone for you weather geeks out there. And if you follow the red line down there to that dotted line that I was talking about, you can see that the temperatures go above freezing roughly 5,000 or so feet up, and then as you go on down, as you can see, they sharply go back down again. So there's not a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. Like I said, here's the precipitable water, this PW thing over here, not even a half inch per 3 hours, which is fairly low moisture content within most of the column, but the only real moisture is at the surface there in a very shallow area. So you have basically this very light rain, or mostly drizzle, falling into air mass that is below freezing. Now, fortunately, it's not a lot of precipitation. Otherwise, we'd be talking about an ice storm. But hence, if you look over here, there's this little thing that the model tries to predict what's the dominant precipitation type, and even there, it shows freezing rain and drizzle. So I want to point this out to you. Matter of fact, I'll go a little bit further here at a few hours out. It really doesn't change that much, and the model still thinks freezing rain and drizzle are a possibility. So if you're around Indianapolis tonight, particularly tomorrow morning, maybe even tomorrow afternoon, be aware there could be some scattered slick spots on the roads from a little bit of freezing drizzle out there. So just take your time, be careful. And all that clears out for this storm, this little piece of energy right here. This is Thursday on the modeling. This little piece of energy is going to be coming through. Kind of talked about it before, and it's still there. This little disturbance is going to be coming through Indiana during the afternoon hours, I think, in particular. And I also want to point out here on the left-hand side here, there's all that energy right there that's going to also be coming in. That's going to figure into the weekend storm. And down below that, I want to show you this because there is a little bit of a change. Now, he's talking about maybe some snow with this. This particular model is actually bringing a rain-snow mix, and we've kind of seen this trend lately with this particular storm. Now, here's another model look right here, and it puts the disturbance even further to the south on Thursday and makes it all rain. So I think we're going to have to, with this deal on Thursday, I think we're going to be dealing with mainly a rain-snow mix, but we'll keep you updated in case this thing decides to go a little further to the south, and that would put us more into play for snow. And the model is not picking up much of accumulation at all, very little accumulation, as a matter of fact. But oh, look at this. Now we're to the weekend storm. And this one model wants to pick up an area of almost a foot north of Indianapolis and a total snowfall accumulation. This is the GFS that's picking up on this. So that's one run we're seeing. As you can see here, it wants to put the bullet of this thing north of Indianapolis. Now, I wanted to show you this right here. This is also off the GFS model as well. This is showing the total storm accumulation, and I'm going to kind of zoom in here, and it puts the heaviest, according to the GFS, north of Indianapolis, and in some cases paints anywhere from 8 to 12 inches of snow potentially for north central Indiana, even into north central, and then you see another area there in north central Ohio, maybe even 1.5 feet in some cases. Keep in mind there'll be some lake effect going on there as well, and that's through the weekend. There you can also see some snow also accumulating there in the Smoky Mountains, and right around Cincinnati area, not too terribly a lot, a few inches there. However, let's flip to the Canadian model. And it paints a different picture. It puts far less snow in north central Indiana, and even in central Indiana, not too terribly much at all. Maybe up to 2, 4, 6, 8 inches maybe in places. Puts a little heavier axis of snow down toward the Cincinnati area where they could get over 8 inches there if this is right. And then again, you can see more snow, heavy snow. It depicts heavier snow also coming off Lake Erie in Ontario, up off the lakes, and some snow there in the Smoky Mountains. So what does this mean? It means at this point in time, we still have some uncertainty. on the storm track, its eventual track, and what its ultimate impact is going to be for Indianapolis this weekend. So I would say prepare for kind of a nuisance storm on Thursday. Rain, snow mix, but could be a little more or less depending on the track of that weak storm. And then for the rest of tonight into tomorrow, a little bit of freezing drizzle to deal with around the metro. And then as we go into Saturday, be prepared for potentially another pretty sizable winter weather system at this point in time. But accumulations and direct impacts still not totally set in stone yet, as we do have some track differences in the modeling right now, which is not uncommon. Also be prepared for some gusty winds this weekend too, with a storm system as it approaches. So that's all I have for now. Thank you again for listening to this edition of the Mosscast. Again, it's Tuesday, January 15th, 2019, 5:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.